One thing that I just noticed that I set up wrong, this timer switch, I set that up as a local, and I'm going to want to control that. So I'm going to go ahead and come up here, and I just deleted that out of our locals, and I'm just going to redefine that as a global. That way I can control that from our watch table. So let's leave it, yeah, just like that. And oh, I think I've got this pound sign in here, so it doesn't like that. Let's try that again. So okay, and I'm just going to copy that, Control C, and let me hide my properties down here, and I'm just going to Control V and paste that into the rest of those. Okay, now let's go ahead and click our simulate button. Maximum number of simulate instances reached. I'm not sure what that's all about. Okay, for some reason I've got multiple PLC sims running, so let's just close both of those and try again. And are you happy now? Good. Now it seems to want to work. Alright, so start search, load, and we want it to start the module, finish, go online. Okay, and let's minimize that simulator. Okay, so right away you can see that we're energized up to our timer switch on all of these rungs. Let's go ahead and minimize that. There. Now, what's going to happen whenever we switch this timer switch and we close it is all these timers are going to behave a little bit differently. Let's start from the top and just work our way down. So I'm going to right click on this timer switch, modify, and set it, and watch what happens. As soon as it starts timing, all of a sudden our T1 output is energized, and once it finishes timing, it gets right to 10. Now it de-energizes, okay? So what we just did was we created a 10-second pulse on T1 out. Now normally for pulses, you're going to have, pulses that last like 1 second or a half second or, something maybe even smaller than that. So 10 seconds is very long for what you would normally have in a pulse. But this timer shows you how to create a pulse, okay? Good, we like that. And let's come down to the next one. Now we've got our timer on, and I'm going to modify our timer switch back to 0. And you see right now everything's clear. Our T2 output is de-energized. So let's modify our timer switch back to 1. And notice T2 out is still off, but our timer is counting up 7, 8, 9 seconds, and there's 10. And as soon as we got to 10 seconds, now our T2 out energizes. And as long as the timer switch stays energized, T2 output is going to stay energized as well. So that's how TON works. Now, I'm not going to flip the timer switch right now because I want to show you how the TOF timer works. And it starts working once the timer switch is turned off, okay? So now that it's on, you see that T3 out is energized, but we have no time on our timer. Now watch what happens whenever I disable the output to that timer. So I modify our timer switch to off. Now is when it starts timing. But it still has T3 out energized, so even though we have broken continuity right here, that keeps it running until the timer expires and then it shuts off. Isn't that cool? And down here we've got our retentive timer. We've got our, and you can see right here, our T4 out is already energized. So let's make sure that we're looking at this from a clean start. Let's go ahead and reset this timer. So modify to 1, and then I'm going to flip that back to 0. So now this timer is reset, and let's see how it works. So I'm going to, man, it's jumping all over the place. I hate that. All right. So we're going to modify the timer switch to 1. And as soon as we do, you see it starts timing up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I'm going to modify it back to 0. But look, we did not lose our time. Our time is still there. So then whenever I switch this back on, modify it back to 1, it picks right up where it left off. And once that finally gets up to 2 minutes, then it's going to energize our output. Whereas if we energize and de-energize the timer switch on these other timers, they just automatically wipe themselves out. So let's test that theory here. Modify to 0, modify to 1, you see it starts timing. Modify back to 0, boop, time's gone. Okay, so now you know what a retentive timer does. It retains all the time. So right now we've got 35 seconds accumulated on this timer. When I switch it back to 1, it just picks right up where it left off until I reset it. And as long as that reset is energized, this timer doesn't time. Once I modify that back to 0, okay, there it goes. Now it starts accumulating time again.